Good afternoon and welcome today. My name is Deborah Wanbaugh and I'm the Regional Manager for First Bank here in Newport Beach. It's an honor for us to have all of you join us today, especially for this exciting event for women leadership. First Bank has been owned by the Deborah family in St. Louis, Missouri since 1910 and is now in its fourth generation of family ownership. We have 79 locations covering Southern and Northern California, St. Louis, Kansas City, and Omaha. Being a family business ourselves, our sweet spot clients are family-owned businesses. Our mission is to help family-owned businesses, their families, employees, thrive through generations. We have invited a group of amazing women who are leaders in their family businesses to share their insights into what made you successful. You will find their stories inspiring. Yeah, that's the Dearborn side, okay? We do love our wine. So we hope that you find their stories inspiring and hopefully come away with some new ideas that you can use in your own business. And now I'd like to introduce Shelley Seifert, our CEO.
Well, good afternoon. How delightful to be with this group of extraordinary women. Deb, thanks for introducing us and getting us started. Danielle Newnham recently led a podcast, and the theme of that podcast was, when women come together, extraordinary things happen. When women come together, extraordinary things happen. And as I look out at this room, it's pretty easy to see why, right? Lots of great women coming together. The other thing that she didn't include in her podcast, but I think it's important to note, women know to have good wine at every event, right? So, Ellen, thank you for the Dearborn. Thank you for all the great wine, and I know we'll enjoy it. So, I also want to say thanks to Ed Hart and Joe Ambrose from our Center for Family-Owned Businesses. I'm glad that you had the vision to pull us all together today to celebrate the important role of women in business and family-owned businesses. I think the pandemic really showcased the power of women's leadership throughout the country and, frankly, throughout the world. I had the privilege of watching many of our clients and learning from women leaders throughout as they responded to an unprecedented time. Deanne, who's here with us today, is going to talk a little bit about how teacher-created materials pivoted on a dime, understanding that just providing materials and not helping teachers learn how to teach virtually wouldn't work. And so they implemented programs to help teachers and learn how to teach virtually. Our Katie Hopkins, who runs Truck Centers. Katie, while most companies were saying, boy, we can't invest, we can't spend a penny because we don't know what's going to happen. Katie looked out at her team and thought, unless we invest in management training and support, we're not going to get through this very unprecedented time. And because of her investment in her team and her leadership, she emerged with a much stronger company from the pandemic. Or my very favorite example is Sarah Larson at RMI. When the schools shut down, Sarah needed her employees at work and wasn't sure what to do, but being resourceful and being a woman, she decided to hire a teacher. She created pods at her workplace and told all of her employees if they had children who couldn't go to school to bring them there, and there was a teacher who would help facilitate. Now, think about the loyalty she gained. Her business ran smoothly through that time. Again, just another great example of women in leadership. The role of women is certainly increasing in family-owned businesses, and family-owned businesses are leading the way with that. About a quarter of family-owned businesses are led by women today, which is increasing. The Conway Center out of Chicago just did a survey of current CEOs asking, if you know who your successor is, will it be male or female? And the response was that about a third of the next set of CEOs would be female. So that 25% is projected to continue growing, which is good news, right? In fact, this is so substantial that I was talking to a friend who's an investment banker, and he said, we need to stop talking about generational transfers of family businesses. We need to talk about the gender transfer of family businesses, and certainly something that we're seeing. I do think we're seeing women excel in family-owned businesses. While the numbers aren't where we want them to be, or I think any of us would aspire for them to be, the reality is that compared to our public company colleagues, there's a dramatic difference. So the Fortune 500 CEOs, about 6% are female. But what's most disappointing about that number, other than the number itself, is that it hasn't changed in the past 4 years. So you're not seeing the progress. Clearly, family-owned businesses are the ones looking for women as leaders and embracing diverse opinions and change. The other thing that we're seeing is more and more women-owned businesses. So right now, we have 37% more female-owned businesses today than we had 5 years ago. So think about that. I mean, a really dramatic shift. And what we're seeing in studies, it makes a lot of sense that we see so many more. Women-owned family businesses experience greater family loyalty, greater alignment of goals, and greater pride in the business. So it makes sense that we're seeing it. Probably my favorite statistic that I think speaks to the vibrancy that we're seeing of women in business is that nearly every day, on average, 2,000 women-owned businesses are launched. 2,000. So we're seeing just really great momentum. And I'm glad we're here together to celebrate that. But with all the good news, much work remains. Business News Daily reported last month that nearly half of women entrepreneurs didn't feel like they had a role model. And if you think about how important a role model has been in your life, that gap is huge, right? And the other statistic that I'll share with you, because this one probably breaks my heart more than any, studies show that more than a quarter of young women entering the workforce report experiencing sex discrimination in the employment arena. And I have to tell you that if somebody had told me that years later I would have a daughter and when she entered the workforce, there would still be an issue of sex discrimination, I wouldn't even have imagined it. So obviously a lot of work yet to be done. And that's why meetings like this matter so much. It's a time when we can come together, we can learn from each other, we can share our experiences, we can support each other, and we can mentor the wonderful young women around us. Today we have an extraordinary group of panelists, and we are just absolutely delighted to have them here today. And I wanted to ask them if they'd come to the podium and introduce themselves so we can get to know them a little bit, share a little about their background, and then perhaps a personal challenge that they're going through at the moment or maybe have just conquered. So if I could ask the panelists to come up and introduce yourselves, appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm Susan DeGrassi, President and COO of Antis Roofing and Waterproofing, and I am, my current challenge is we are almost a 35-year-old company, and we have our goal is to really build up our mid-level management structure to be poised to run the business in a few years when Charles and I age out. Well, Charles doesn't think he's going to age. Yeah, 60 is the new 40 for him, but I'm anticipating maybe we'll slow down a teeny bit. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
My name is Deanne Mendoza. I am one of the co-owners of Teacher Created Materials. We are Hi, Leah. She used to be in our HR department. We miss you so much. We're a 45-year-old educational publishing company, a multi-generation family business. I work with my mom and my sister. I guess a challenge that we are facing right now would be a conflict with silos between people that are working full-time in the office and people that are hybrid. Not so much people that are 100% home, but we are seeing that there's some tension that's growing between our hybrid, you're in the office sometimes, versus you're in the office every day. So we have not conquered it. We are working on it.
All right.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Lisette Gavinia Lopez, and my family owns F. Gavinia & Sons. We're a multi-generational family business. We're in the coffee business. We've been in the coffee business for over 150 years, almost 100 years in Cuba, 55 years here in Southern California. We started over in Southern California, and today we are the makers of Don Francisco's Coffee, Café La Llave Espresso, Gavinia Gourmet Coffee, and Jose's Gourmet Coffee at Costco. I recently became the chairman of the board and a managing director within the company, mostly overseeing sales and marketing. And one of the challenges I'm facing is, as my generation has taken over the operational leadership of the company, is it's me with two of my cousins. How do we co-lead this business together? And what's going to be our mark? You know, we have big shoes to fill, 55 years, of transferring over a business. So that's more to come.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maranya Moultrie. I'm Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel for IMRI, and I'm Secretary of the Board for Cytelix Corporation. IMRI was founded 30 years ago this year from 1992 by my mother. We are an IT cybersecurity business that has focused primarily on the federal marketplace. In 2019, we stood up another company, which is Cytelix Corporation, to focus on cybersecurity for commercial industries. One of the challenges we are facing is we have some very strategic, aggressive growth goals for the next 18 months. And with that, there's been restructuring in the company, bringing new people into the company. And so that's change management. There's a lot of change, and not everyone responds as well to change. So trying to bring the team together, get everyone on board so we can drive the train where we're trying to go has been one of our challenges.
Test? You give me a mic. Y'all, I put on my dress denim for you. Are you excited? Ed, there's far too little wine for this panel, if you're taking notes. Okay, I just wanted to make you aware. Yeah. Hi, I'm Heather. I do some family business stuff when I'm not climbing mountains and taking care of my kids and doing all of the life activities that we all do as women leaders, right? So we are a second-generation family-owned business. We do heat treating, brazing, chemical processing, and specialty coatings, primarily for the aerospace and defense industries. There's no test. It's gonna be fine. I know, it's just rocket science. Whatever. So the challenge that we're facing right now is that I am literally living in Encanto. We don't talk about Bruno. So there are always sibling dynamics at play, and I am Luisa, lifting up some churches, moving the boulders around, and we do have a Bruno, and we do have every dynamic of that movie. If you haven't seen it, by the way, best representation of a family-owned business literally ever created. Yes.
Cast your family as you watch it.
Oh, yes. And if you can't cast them, that means it's you. Note to self. So that's a little bit about me and our challenges, and I can't wait to hear from the rest of the ladies on the panel.
I have not seen that movie. I'm going to have to look it up. Yeah. So my name is Ellen Dierberg-Milne, and my family owns First Bank, and also Star Lane and Dearborn Vineyards, and also a bunch of businesses in Herman, Missouri, including one business that I started 15 years ago, Tin Mill Brewery. So now my brother, I have two older brothers, one of my brothers and I, Mike Dierberg, and I run First Bank and the wineries together. And I'm a little bit more involved with the wineries, and which is a little bit more fun, I have to admit. And it's been an interesting transition. Everything's gone very smoothly. We'll get more into that later. But I would say that the biggest challenge for us with the winery is not an easy one to surmount, and it's climate change. Our yields are changing so much, so we're learning a lot about farming, the types of vines to plant. And that has been really interesting. Another challenge is cannabis, which is another interesting farming challenge. When you have vineyards right next to cannabis, the two don't go so well together. There's some challenges there because there's some things that float through the air. But I digress. They're great businesses, and the banking has been so much fun too, and I appreciate being a part of this. Thank you so much, Ed and Shelley. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.